Welcome to the Learning Shop. So in today's episode, we embark on a journey to discover and uncover or interrogate the connection between leadership and learning. Now, whether you are a seasoned executive, a parent, or even a leader just wants to inspire others, we hope today that you're able to really understand the connection or the nexus between leadership and learning. So we want to provide you with this invaluable insight today. And so I'm excited to have Ms. Diggles here to engage in this conversation with you. Welcome to the Learning Shop.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
All right.
Before we do any episode, we start with a segment called Fresh Leadership Advice in 60 Seconds.
All right, wait now. Normally, I'm the one who's asking for the advice. So you try to ask me
I'm
for
going to
advice?
interrogate you.
Okay, all right, let's go.
You ready? We
Yes.
need a quick, candid, insightful perspective on leadership and learning. I'm just giving you 60 seconds. You
Does
ready?
quick mean short? Or
Quick
does it mean-
means short.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know I'm a processor, so
I
it takes
know.
me a little longer. All right.
I know.
Okay, all right, let's go.
All right, you ready?
I'll do my best.
Here we go.
All right.
A leader's vision should always be aligned with.
Wow. A leader's vision should always be aligned with his purpose or her purpose.
I'm still learning to.
Lead.
Leadership is about inspiring others to.
Believe more is possible and really see the power within them. That's what leadership is about.
All right. Learning from past mistakes helps leaders to.
Not repeat them.
One aspect of effective leadership is the ability to.
Listen. Like leadership and listening are indispensable.
One thing I wish I had learned earlier.
Wow. I wish I've learned everything I've learned. I wish I've learned it all earlier, but the most important thing is that leadership is not about a position or a title. It's about adding value to people.
Learning is a lifelong journey that begins with.
Recognizing that you don't know as much as you think you do, that you're not the exception, and that you have the ability to change things.
Last question. The best lessons are often learned by.
Attempting things that you didn't think were possible.
Okay. All right. That's it. Leadership advice in 60 seconds.
Haha.
All right. I have a few questions for you, Dr. McFarland.
All right, here we go.
I know you prefer to be on the other side of this, but
Yeah.
this time I have some questions for you. You
Well,
ready?
I have some questions for you as well,
What?
so let's go. This is a learning shop, right?
All right, let's go. From your perspective, what are some key traits that make a great leader, and how did you see those traits exemplified? Because we're in a barbershop, right? That's the setting.
Yeah.
So let's go back in time. How did you see some of the key traits of a leader exemplified in the barbershop
So
growing
you're
up?
taking me back to Highway 190 in Jasper, Texas, which was the main thoroughfare. It's a small town, 7,000 kids, 7,000 people in the whole city.
Oh, wow.
And so the barbershop was like the center. And we were actually on the main highway. And so we would see all these different people coming through. And so you have all these different diversity of thoughts and all these people coming into the barbershop to get a new cut. And so what was your question?
How did you see some of the key traits of a leader exemplified there in that space?
I think the number one trait I saw was like listening. Like my dad would listen to everybody that came in. He didn't speak much. He listened, and they would share whatever was going on. He would ask good questions. So really, the leader asked really good questions, listened to the response, and then identify what the needs were. That's what he did well, and I watched him do it.
I think that's what most barbers and stylists do. They give you an opportunity to just lay in the bowl, talk. They listen.
I think so. I think like barbers back in the day, they were like the therapists. They were the doctor. That's why the red, white, and blue, because it was.
Oh, wow.
They were the doctors. They were the advice givers. They were the counselors. In some cases, they were the loan sharks. I mean, they were all of it, right? And so, in the learning shop, what I realized is that a leader is someone that can listen to a person to understand what their needs are, and then they met their needs. Guess what? In our barbershop, we sold 8-tracks, tapes, records,
Wow.
T-shirts, bumper stickers, soda water is what I was about to say. We had a game room. We did all this stuff in the barbershop.
Wow.
So you would look at the building and you would say it was called McFarland's Barbershop and Record Shop. But we did all these different things because it's what the community needed.
So leaders listen, they meet needs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they add value.
Add value.
They like make you feel like you're important. Like you leave out the barbershop. You got
Looking
a fresh
good.
cut. Yeah, you looking good. And when you look good,
you feel good.
you feel good. And when you feel good,
You do good.
you do good. And when you do good, they pay good.
Uh-oh.
All right,
Okay.
come on now.
All right.
It was all connected.
Well,
when it
here's
started
my
the
next
barbershop.
question.
Yeah.
Can leadership be taught?
You know what? I absolutely believe, some people believe that leaders are born. I believe people are born with leadership traits. But I believe leadership and effective leadership can be taught, and it must be taught. And I think leadership can be learned. But I also believe that there are natural traits that a leader must have, and then there are some desires that a leader must have as well.
So the studio audience can't see this, but this room is filled with Crowley ISD students. I love it.
Absolutely.
My next question is, if leadership can be taught, where should an aspiring leader, like the kids here in this room, go to begin their leadership journey? Where do they start? Where does it start?
Yeah, I see, and the world will make you think you have to go somewhere and do something in order to learn to be a leader. And that's totally not true. You start right where you are, because leadership is simply about adding value, making an impact, creating the change. And so where you are is where you start.
So it could start at home.
Absolutely. Most leadership examples start at home. We look at our parents, we look at our brothers, our sisters, our older people, we look at other folks, and we see the kind of impact they have on us. The world doesn't define that as leader. To us, that's just my dad or my cousin or my whatever. And they make you feel something. Like leaders make you feel like you can do more. And I think so when if I'm a student and I'm trying to think about, I want to be a leader, what you're really saying is I want to make an impact and I want to add value. So then what you do is you look at where you are and you see, what can I change in this environment? You heard Christian, if you looked at one of the earlier episodes, you heard Christian say he started the elementary campus and they wanted to just beautify the environment. Wow. You heard Madison say she wanted to make an impact. She wanted to create clubs and organizations to make an impact. I mean, she's over a voting club and she can't even vote.
I love
right?
it. I love
that
it.
means leaders know that I can make a difference. Like
Yeah.
I can change it. And so, I realized that there's like two kind of people. And there's one type that go around and they complain about what is. But there's another type that says, I know what could be, and I'm willing to do my part to make what could be. I think that's what's important for leaders. So you start there. You start with the desire to make a difference.
Let's talk a little bit more about emerging leaders like Christian and Madison.
Yeah.
What challenges in 2024 are you seeing that emerging leaders face?
Let me forget about the emergency leaders. Let me tell you about the challenge, the biggest challenge I have seen as a practicing leader and learning leader. It is that there are the social media is great, but there's so much, the distractions are immense. And most of the distractions fill you with sensationalized information or negative information. And it's just, the challenge as a leader is that you have these positive ideas and thoughts of what you could be and do, but if you're not intentional, and you don't do like Madison said and find your people, then you're going to be definitely inundated with all the negativity of what is, and it drains you. And so I think one of the major challenges as a leader is finding out, hey, here's what I really want to do to make a difference, and then finding others that want to make a difference, and then connecting with those people, and being able to block out all the other noise. Like, that's one of the challenges of our society today. There's so much noise.
A lot of noise.
And it drains you.
So let's talk about leading and learning.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of noise, but we get a lot of information from some of that noise. I mean, I don't know where my cell phone is right now, but I miss it.
Yeah.
We're used to that noise.
Absolutely.
Right about now. Being a leader, being a learner, trying to drown out all those distractions. Talk to me about, is there a difference between being a leader and a learner as I'm growing and I'm learning?
So
I don't know.
Getting older happens regardless of whether you do anything. You get older.
Just wake up
Right.
every morning.
But learning and growing is something that you must be intentional about.
Okay.
And so I think the reality is like when I talk about learning is not something that just happens. Like, you don't just learn.
Okay.
You live and then you die, but you don't just learn. Like, in order to learn something, I have to be really intentional and I have to be curious. I have to want to know why or how or what other people have done. And so I think the key is learning is not something that just happens.
Okay.
Like a kid doesn't just learn how to ride a bike. Like we don't just learn how to walk.
Okay.
Like somebody has to help us, steady us, engage us in these activities. And so I think it's important that you recognize that you may have the natural traits to do whatever, but if you don't learn, you will not operationalize, you will not capitalize it or maximize that what's inside of you. But I want to go back to social media because the way I described it earlier, you may think that I think social media is bad. No, social media is outstanding.
Okay.
Like it gives you so much access to information and to mentors and to concepts that we never would have had before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was fortunate that I had Encyclopedia Britannica in the house. I mean, most people don't know what encyclopedia is like that, but I had all these encyclopedias. So I would go into my book room and I would just spend days looking at pictures and reading and
Okay.
so it was access. Social media gives us access like right now. I can learn about anything right now. And so I think it's good. What I said though is that if we are not intentional, then social media will feed you those things that are sensationalized.
Fall down a rabbit hole.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like I wanted to stay involved in like news, and I keep getting these news brief notifications, but they all this stuff, and it's not anything positive or productive. So I had to take those off, and I created a different notification. And so I want to hear about leadership. I want to hear about work success. I want to hear about people who are leading through challenges and all these things. And when I started to do that, oh my gosh, it changed my whole perspective.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think social media has its place.
It does.
It's a great tool.
Let's talk about the flip side of the coin, unlearning.
Yeah.
What do you think, or what behaviors do you think leaders need to unlearn?
Yeah, man. The first thing you have to do in order to unlearn something is you have to understand this concept called humility and ego. So those things are counter. Those things are in conflict. So your ego will tell you that you know and that you know everything you need to know. But humility is this recognition that you don't know. And what happens is the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And so the more humble you become, and consequently, if I'm humble and I'm operating in humility, then I'm open to be able to receive information. Okay. But if I'm operating with ego, then I can't receive any information. I think like you got to have confidence, but you also have to be humble. You have to have a sense of humility where you know that I want to learn more because I want to live justly. Like I want to live righteously. And so in order to do that, I got to be open to be able to receive information and not to assume that I already know.
That's what I love about this podcast. I mean, you're learning from 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds.
Absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't really matter who you're learning from, you're learning.
Yeah, and so for me, like we did like it was a lead up. It was like I don't know what you call it. Maybe it was like when you were testing something, a beta version or whatever. And I was just talking to some students and I asked them about leaders, and I said, okay, tell me a leader that you like, that you admire. And I was waiting for them to say Barack Obama or some other political figure, and they said my mom.
I love it.
And my dad. And I'm like, you absolutely right. I'm like, y'all get it.
Love it.
Like the books I read don't talk about my mom and my dad. The books I read talk about these great leaders and coaches or generals and all that. But the reality is leadership is not about those folks. Leadership is about the people that make a difference. And so just my conversation with them kind of refocused and let me know, hey, there is still hope. Like there is, like people don't just believe that leadership is about a position. You know, people don't just look at me because I'm the superintendent as a leader. It's got to be the impact and the value that I've added. That will make me be a leader.
So this is kind of a personal question, not too personal.
Yeah, okay.
How old are you?
I am 54 years old.
Okay.
Or 53, depends.
This is?
That's my dad.
Okay. And so
I know what you're trying to do. You're not gonna make me cry.
I'm not trying to make you cry. This was a leader in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
But I didn't look at him as a leader. He was my
Back
dad.
then.
Back
Okay.
then. When I learned more about leading and studied more leaders, then I realized, wait a minute, these people can talk about the concept of leadership. They can talk about the philosophy and the theory of leadership, but I had a great model who actually showed me what leaders do, how leaders talk, how they respond, how they feel, and how they lead. And so it was.
But you didn't realize that until way later.
Sure didn't.
Okay.
Never would have. He was a model.
Interesting.
But I thought he was a model of what a man should be a father should be. I didn't really consider him being a model for a leader.
Okay.
But as I began to interrogate my thoughts and beliefs and about leadership, I realized I learned everything I know about leadership from him, and I learned it mostly in the barbershop.
In the barbershop.
Yeah.
So what are you learning in this season?
I'm learning in this season that having a desire is not enough, that you got to act on it. Like, we started this conversation, and we know I'm closer to the end as it relates to leadership than I am in the beginning, although I'm going to live until I die. And so I don't plan on dying soon, so I'm going to keep living.
We
But
want
I
you
am.
right here in Crowley ISD, Dr.
Absolutely.
McFarland.
But what I do know is that, like, the shift is happened for me mentally in legacy. It really caused me to start thinking about, okay, how do you want to be remembered? And what do you want to leave? And I'm like, man, I'm just doing the work, but I haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about the work and sharing the lessons that I've learned, because I realized
Along the way.
Yeah, because I've learned a lot of lessons as a leader. I mean, I've been a superintendent for 16 years now, and I've been a school administrator for 25 years, and been in education for 31, and have had all kind of leadership roles. I was the captain of my college football team and president of the National Alliance of Black Schools. I can go through all these things that I've done and leadership roles that I've had, but I didn't really see myself as a leader. What I wanted was to just add value. And so when I started to think about the legacy that I want to lead, I'm like, there's some lessons I've learned that I haven't shared. And so I think that what I've learned is just wanting to share those lessons was not enough. I need to find a mechanism and a way. And so that's why this learning shop idea, the podcast idea, came up. I'm like, I love podcasts, and people's attention span are not as long, and they don't have as much time as what I've had before. And so I'm like, how can we share these lessons in a short way, in a protracted way that can actually dig deeper? And so I'm doing this. So to me, like, at this stage in my career, it's like, how do you transfer the lessons? And so I think I'm learning that wanting to transfer the lessons are not enough, that you got to do it.
Got to do it.
And it takes all these people, like all these folks behind the computer. You don't see them, but they're here. It takes, we got 30 people in here probably. And so just wanting to do something is not enough. You got to find your people. I found my people. You got to find other people that want to do like what you could do, and they can help you. And so I'm just learning that leadership is more about others, and it's more about acting, or as much about acting as it is.
You said being intentional,
Yeah,
like
man,
actually
no
doing
shit.
it, not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So let's take a left turn.
Okay.
Balance. Did you ever struggle with it? How did you learn to balance the demands of leadership and maintaining a healthy life, a healthy life?
Go and say the word. You try not to say
Okay,
the word.
work-life balance.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so
Work-life balance.
Work-life
Is
balance,
that a
that's
thing?
a new one. That is a thing.
Life-work balance.
It is a thing. And I have 2 daughters and 2 sons, and this generation talks about work-life balance. And I agree, there must be a work-life balance. But I think you have to look over the phase of the life to determine that. And sometimes we think about work-life balance right now. Like oftentimes to be a success, you have to make some sacrifices. And that means your life may be out of balance early, but you have to invest early. You got to work really hard early so that when you get later in your life, you can enjoy some of the fruits of your labor. I think sometimes our society says that we need to have work-life balance like right now.
Every moment. Every single step of the way.
And I don't believe in that. I believe that we have to put in time, and there are some phases in your life you have to work really hard, and you may not have a lot of downtime. But there are other points in life where you can do that. What I can know is in the barbershop, it was Johnny Guitar Watson. He was an artist, and he had a song, and I don't remember the whole song, but I remember these words. It says, son, learn all you can, because one day you're going to be a man. And then you're going to have to work hard to get your pay. And it went on to talk about the fact that you can determine when you work hard. Like, you can work really hard from the time you're 18 to the time you're 35 or 40. And then by the time you're 40, you're in a position to where you can take the trips and you can live like you want to live and do the things you want to do. But between the time of 18 to 25 or 18 to 35, like, there's going to be some grinding. There's going to be some work that has to happen. Now, he also said that you make a decision. You can either work hard early and enjoy the fruits of your effort as you get older, when you're my age, or you can enjoy the fruits of your effort when you're young, but then you're 50, 60, 70 working really hard. Okay. Hard work doesn't
you don't escape
us,
it.
And so think that was so critical when you talk about work-life balance. I just challenge you to look over the course of your life.
Whole life.
Your whole life. And then you ought to have balance in your whole life. But there are some times when you have to make challenges, sacrifices, and folks want the journey, but they don't. They're not always willing to pay
Put
the
in the
cost.
work.
And so it's dreams are free, but the journey is a cost. There is a cost, and I think that's important, and we have to make sure people understand that.
Well, I think we're almost out of time. That was Johnny Guitar Washington.
Guitar.
Good.
Not guitar.
Not guitar.
Yeah.
Guitar.
Johnny Guitar Watson.
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 We love it. Right here
Yeah.
in the Learning Shop. Dr. McFarland, you want to close us up?
I just close. Thank you, Diggles, for coming into the Learning Shop and for being here. And just the conversation's been good. I mean, I believe at the end of the day that leaders are born and they're made. And I think they're made by continuing to learn over the course of their life. And so just because a person wasn't necessarily born with leadership traits, they can learn them, they can develop them, they can grow. And just because a person was born with leadership traits don't mean they remain a leader if they don't learn and if they don't grow. The key is learning and growing. Leadership and learning in the Learning Shop. It's indispensable.
I love it.
All I can say is just lead well and continue to lead.
Like, follow, hit the notification.
Do all that. So you'll be notified when we put out all these
Do
other
the
messages.
things.
We're coming to you. Appreciate you all. Lead well.